That is the tiniest lathe I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Instructions.
Technical difficulties!
Yeah, look at that. Plastic! Okay.
Whoa!
Oh no, I think we stalled it. Hey, we're making chips! Where the heck is my drill truck? Man, I'd be a terrible machinist.
Come on, little thing, come on!
Hey guys, I'm Chucky2009, and this is whatever month this is supposed to be for, is Patreon review. Greetings, everyone. All right, so initially, first thing to say, I'm not affiliated with Harbor Freight, as you just heard. Basically, the way this used to work is I used to have a pretty decent Patreon following at one point in time. And I really appreciated the community supporting me while I made these videos for you guys. So one thing I would do to give back to the community is I would use some of the internet money that brought in to buy a tool. In this case, obviously the Mini-Lathe. We'd review it so you guys got an actual unbiased review as opposed to a promotional video, you know, for somebody who shills for the company, which I've done for lots of other companies. I never shilled anything for Harbor Freight though. And then at the end of that, I would give the tool to a viewer out there, one of you guys, and that benefited a lot of people. Lots of people got to get started. And, you know, in welding, I gave one welder to a guy who started a business with it. It was a good thing. It was a lot of fun, and it enabled me to make a lot of videos like this. Now, we filmed this back around, I'm pretty sure 2017, and it is currently 2022 as I'm filming this update here. So here's the deal, guys. Okay, around the time we filmed this was when Harbor Freight started introducing a line of tools that you could tell they were really trying to have stuff that doesn't suck. All right, that's about the time they came out with that lineup of those Predator generators, which I have one. It's been flawless, and that was a couple years before they came out with the Icon line of tools, which are, I also own some, and honestly, they're just downright good. And but you know, so they really tried to improve things around the time we filmed this video. But this lathe, to be honest, this is from the old Harbor Freight. All right, I don't know what spurred them to try to become better. I think it was because everyone on the internet bullied them constantly for the crappiness of a lot of things they sold. Was that undeserved? You know, as you'll see in this video, this lathe is pretty rough, I'll put it that way. But you know, for a lot of things, if you bought it at Harbor Freight back then, you knew you were going to get something that should get the job done, and it, you know, is cheap, and it got the job done, and that's about what they had going for it. That's from the time period this lathe, when they started selling these things. So my advice to anyone who finds this video, you're looking to buy a lathe, since I filmed this back then, there's a lot better of Chinese lathes that are available. You can buy with like, you know, a real lathe that's a little bigger than this thing with a much better motor, with a lot more power, with actual metal gears in it, or something that's direct drive. Man, they are so much better. I don't think those were on the market at all when I filmed this. So my advice to anyone who finds this is pay up a little more and get one of the newer generation of machines, and I don't think Harbor Freight sells those. If they do, I haven't seen them, but you can find them on various other websites. And you know, so I'd recommend somebody goes that way, or you do what I did when I bought my big commercial clawsing lathe that's actually right behind this workbench on the side the camera's on when we were filming this. And I just waited. I watched online classifieds. It took a while, and you know, nobody really likes to wait for stuff, but I got a pretty good deal on that thing, and that's my choice of way to buy, you know, machine tools. And anything large like that, if you can wait till you find somebody who's retiring, or somebody with a business and they bought, you know, a newer one or a bigger one, or what, man, that's really the way to go. This little Harbor Freight mini lathe, it's basically kind of a toy. I'm sure it has its place. I know people have done cool stuff with them, and you can mod them. For example, one thing I was hard on this thing for, and I believe justifiably so, is the drive gears are plastic on this thing. Okay, you can get metal ones, you can put them in, but man, I'd get one of the newer generation of Chinese lathes that came out since then, or just hold out and watch for something used. But whatever the case, here's the review. There's the update, and thank you guys for watching these things over all these many years. Yeah, watching these things and going back and going through these videos, man, it brings back some memories. Most of them are pretty positive. And yeah, so that's the brief review of this lathe. I wish it was like some of the other things I've done updates for where I still have the tool, but obviously I don't. I gave it to the viewer. I have no idea what happened to it. So that's all I can tell you guys. Thank you for watching. For anyone still interested in this family of lathes, which, you know, I already shared my 2 cents on, here's the rest of the video. Best wishes, everyone. I'm kind of excited to see this thing because I know this is one of the quintessential, like, hobbyist types of tools. It's something I've wondered about. I've honestly never used one of these before. I've had a couple lathes. You know, I don't claim to be a machinist or anything, but I've got a, I don't know, about a 12, 14 inch flossing lathe. I use it all the time for making bushings and adapters and fitting stuff into other stuff. And before that, I had a little old Logan lathe, which was kind of a turd, but it got me started. Anyway, today we're going to look at what the might of Chinese industry can produce for $500 or $700, whatever it was. We can see they've produced the closest thing to a wooden crate possible without actually spending the extra $2 to make the wooden crate. I've been looking for an excuse to try this out. This was sent to me by a British subscriber who handmade it out of what we think was an old file. And yeah, it's really, really cool. It showed up one day. There's wood chips in this handle. Looks like it's been epoxied. Someone spent a lot of time and effort into this, and it came out so smooth, like across the back here, and beautiful. So really, really looking for a chance to try this thing out. So anyway, like I said, a lot of people really, really like these little lathes. I know there's an entire group online who pretty much does nothing other than mods these things and puts improvements on them, and I think some people even convert them to like basic CNC setups and the like. But all we're gonna do is we're gonna put this thing through its paces, and I'm shipping it out to a viewer. Needless to say, I'm not affiliated with Harbor Freight or with whatever Chinese company produces these things. I think it's one of those deals where there's one big factory over there who makes all these, and they'll stamp, like, you know, whatever name you want on it. Oh, it's like bolted to the wood on the bottom of this.
Technical difficulties!
Hey, all right, we made it work. All right, so let's see what you get with the Precision Mini-Lathe. Not the non-precision one, the Precision Mini-Lathe. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, this thing is tiny. Okay, instructions. So one of the first things I'm doing to get this set up is wiping away all this cosmoline here. This is like, I think it's some type of petroleum product. A lot of countries used to use this to essentially mothball rifles and military hardware because it's just a thick coating that prevents rust. You can see clearly on this rail here, I've wiped this away and there's nothing here but the cast iron. Over here, there's this yellowy goop, which is the cosmoline we're trying to remove. Not especially difficult to deal with. I'm just using some WD-40 and paper towel here. It wipes away. It is a little bit of a pain, but we should be thankful to this that it did its job properly because there's no rust that I can see on the lathe itself. So what do I think of this so far? Well, I'm getting it put together and I'm becoming familiar with this. It's not as much of a toy as I would have initially thought. For instance, like, I will say the machining on this looks extremely nice. These rails, they're beautifully, smoothly ground on here. It's not like, it doesn't seem all that rough around the edges. I think it's probably going to be fine for what it is. Yeah, look at that. But now I will say, you know, on one hand, you've got the decent machining on it, the fact that, like, the tailstock and everything, it's all made out of cast iron and machined steel and everything. It's not plastic. And then this little chuck they give you, which is absolutely just friggin' adorable. Look at this thing. You have that. One thing I will say that I'm not impressed with on this lathe at all is the fact that the gears are plastic. Literally plastic. The gears that power this thing are made from plastic. However, I'm told that a lot of people and places sell steel replacements because, surprise, surprise, plastic gears don't actually last even to light use. It appears as though, unlike some of the welders that we've reviewed, this thing actually does have a useful owner's manual. This looks like it was written by someone whose at least third language was English, probably even first. Why no turning?
Oh no!
All right, so we seem to have discovered the problem, and that is that it will not run without this guard in place, which is interesting because, you know, this is a machine with plastic gears, so they wouldn't spend the money on that, but they're putting in these safety switches. The issue with this is that A, it's a flimsy piece of plexiglass, and if something bad happens, it's probably not actually going to do much to protect the operator. B, the main issue I have is that this is the kind of thing which is going to get absolutely disgusting. It's going to get like burned and melted from hot chips and covered in grease and everything, so you won't even be able to see it. But unless you take the switch apart and I guess bridge it or whatever, you can't actually use the lathe without it. Was that it? Just we'll see. All right, everything is clear.
Whoa!
All right, so this thing does have, I'm not an expert on electric motors, but essentially a electronic speed control. I don't know exactly how all this works. I've never used a lathe which has one, but this is kind of a nice feature because evidently it stops you from having to change gears around in here anytime you want to use the thing, which is bad. Most of you guys know you always want to get a lathe with a quick change toolbox, quick change gearbox if you're in the market for one, which is like that lathe. You basically just pull a knob and move a lever and it changes the speed of the machine. This, it just has this nice little switch here. Don't know how heavy duty this is. Like I said, I'm not a machinist, I don't claim to be, but it does friggin' work. All right, so let's see what exactly we have here. We've got our guard with our teeny weeny little chuck here. We've got this tool post holder here. We got both of our slides, this entire thing which moves back and forth. But honestly, this thing doesn't seem that bad. All right, so what we have here is a few different things. They do give you this live center. This is essentially just a little wedge with a nice ball bearing in here, whatever. We can put this in our tailstock like this, and we can use this to kind of, for lack of a better term, sandwich a piece of material between this and the chuck to hold it steady. Like for instance, if I was gonna turn this and I wanted it really steady, I might put this in here and then sandwich this in here and it would hold it. So it's good they give you this, and it's actually a pretty nice live center. Like this is just buttery smooth to turn, and they don't really have to give you that at all. This is, I believe, an MT1 taper, so this is the drill chuck I use on my big lathe. Good for it. Best thing you can do to machine tools. I took the taper adapter off it so it fits the larger machine, so it'll fit this one. So we can put our drill bits in this thing, and we're going to try and drill some stuff as well. Now, they give you this chuck key. What's really nice about this is it's got the spring on it. Now, this is a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it makes it so you can't accidentally leave this in here because it just sort of springs itself off like that. It's bad because I'm not used to working with one of these. But it's great for someone who's never run a lathe before because it kind of saves them from making the mistake of leaving this in here and starting the machine. What I try to do to avoid doing that myself is I don't let this chuck wrench leave my hand. So like if I walk away to grab a wrench or something, I take this with me. It's still in my hand, so it's never actually left in the machine itself. So here's our first problem. This is a pretty small workpiece, but not that small, and we can't actually turn most of this due to the fact that it's hitting the guard. It's not that I'm against safety features or anything, it's just stuff like this tends to directly interfere with the operation of a tool like this. And the other thing is sometimes when people have stuff like this, they say, oh, I don't have to make an effort to remain safe with the things I'm doing because the machine will protect them. Well, really it won't. Let me see if I can remember how to do this because it only works if you do it in the right sequence. On, forward, speed. Hey! See if we can figure out this power feed here. It's going the wrong way, but you can see it is working. So that means all we have to do is figure out where the reverser screw is for this, which I think is here. Yeah, So now you can see this knob is spinning in. It's really cool this even has power feed, because back with old vintage equipment, this was a feature. Like, you didn't get this on a lot of the cheaper lathes which are out there on the market. Now this is about as cheap as they come. And look, I don't have to turn this. There's a number of advantages with this. Mainly, it requires less effort too. This is a lot more consistent than I could be if I wanted to be, so it produces a better finish on your workpiece. We are going to move this in a little bit though. Oh no, I think we stalled it. It barely touched and it stalled. Oh no. Hey, it's doing it. We're turning aluminum. A little bit of an interrupted cut here we got going on. Let's see, I gotta disengage this. Wait, it was disengaged, just not all the way. Oh, what is going on here? Don't like to use force on. What are we hitting? Oh no! Yeah, it is all the way out. Uh-oh. It's like there's gunk in the tracks or whatever. All right, so we know where this is touching. Let's try some aluminum here. We will try to remove, this is evidently in thousandths of an inch, which is nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 thousandths. So this is going to make our piece of material about 15 thousandths of an inch smaller, because we're taking 7.5 thousandths off per side. Let's see if it's got the power to do this. And again, this is just some aluminum. Come on. There, power feed engage. There we go. All right, so it's taken 7.5 thousandths off pretty well. 15 thousandths. So now we're going to make this thing essentially a piece of MIG wire smaller. We'll see if it has the power to do it. What was that? It's hitting. There's something wrong. It's hitting something in its. You can almost hear too. There's something in the tracks here. I don't know if that sound's coming through. That sounds terrible. The problem appears to be this guard. There's this guard which they've put over the lead screw here, which is nice. But you can see we're hitting this every single time we come through. We can actually see bare metal here through the powder coating. I'm pretty sure if you go out and buy $1 million Haas, they tell you to do the same thing. You know, the way a lot of these cheap Chinese tools work is they will work, but expect to spend some time doing some cleaning stuff up, some fitting stuff together, that sort of deal. See if we can clean this mess up. Gonna flip this off if it crashes. Hey, we made it. Pretty terrible finish though, and this is a basically brand new insert. We'll try to only take off a few thousandths here as sort of a finishing pass. I can't get this to clean up. The price of this thing is starting to show through, I'll say that. still, even after we sanded that down, I don't know if it's grabbing somewhere else or what, but it's really rough to turn through here. The gears this gear in here doesn't want to mesh properly, so I really have to like yank hard on that. And this seems to be about the best quality of finish I'm capable of getting out of this thing. Now, as mentioned for the millionth time, I'm not, you know, like a full-time machinist or anything, but I mean, that's pretty rough. And again, brand new insert. This is what we get when we're only removing a few thousandths of material at a time. That's the kind of thing that's going to take a lot of sanding or a better quality lathe. All right, so we learned it'll do aluminum pretty easily. Let's try it on some steel here. This is some 1 inch, maybe 1 1/4 inch drops. And you know what? Actually, this is probably too thick, too big to fit in through the guard on this thing. But we're going to try it anyway. Okay, so let's see. I got the center drill right here. We're going to fit this into our chuck here, which evidently isn't mounted into this all the way because it still spins. What the heck? Uh-oh. Wait a minute. This might not even be what I thought it was. The problem is, I don't think this lathe actually has the flat spot on the taper, because if we look at this livestock we have, you know, there's no flat spot. Now I realize it's a live center rather, so maybe they just don't have that flat spot, but I cannot for the life of me find anywhere in this tailstock. I mean, look at this, this just spins. We're like way far out, and there genuinely doesn't seem to be any kind of flat spot in here to find in order to lock this. I suspect there's not actually any flat spots in here. This is going to be the moment of truth though. There's none. There's literally, I mean, you guys understand the concept. We take our drill chuck. Where the heck is my drill chuck? Man, I'd be a terrible machinist. Here, this is the adapter. It's the same type of system except a little larger. You take this taper and shove it in here. The taper fits, but see this flat spot? There's like a key that goes in, and this is what keeps your drill chuck from turning. There is nowhere in here for this key to go. Like if we look in here, there's no, there's no like parallel slot that fits in. Crazy. That's literally just a taper. They tell you you get a Morris taper quill, and you get a Morris taper. Not the end, at the end of the Morris taper, just the Morris taper. This is why our drill chuck can't fit in here, which is really interesting because I did some looking around. You know, I don't want to tell you guys the wrong thing or whatever, so I'm looking around between when we filmed the last shot and this one on the internet. People actually drill holes with these things. So I don't know if there's like a replacement quill you can get or something, or you know, or if the old ones used to come with that and now they don't because they cheapened them out or something, but mine does not have anywhere for the drill chuck to tie into to keep it from spinning. So there's really no way to do that short of something completely insane, even by my standards, like getting a cheap drill chuck and tack welding it in there or something. So that's a little disappointing. Also disappointing because the problem is we can't actually fit material in here and have enough to work on. So what I'm going to have to do is get a longer piece of steel. Okay, so this is the piece of bar stock. I think this is maybe 1 1/8 inch bar stock that I want to turn down. The problem is, as you can see, this extends way far out past the face of the jaw. So, you know, we want, anytime you machine something, you want your setup to be as rigid as possible. If we're turning this and we're cutting into it where my thumb is, it's going to be pushing this whole thing over, and it's going to want to go like this, at least on a very small level. So we're not going to be able to get any type of respectable finish on this, and it's going to be chattery and dangerous. So that is when you use something like this livestock, as a bunch of you guys know, or a live center rather. We stick this in the tailstock, and then we put this, come on little thing, come on. We put this in here and stab it in like such. The problem is we need to put a hole in the center of this for this taper, this little cone here, to fit into, except we can't drill holes with this. So you guys know what we have to do to get this ready to turn it on this lathe. We have to turn it on the big lathe. So what do I think of the little Harbor Freight lathe? It's fine so long as you have a big lathe to supplement the usage of it. So this is our piece of bar stock, and with this you can see we don't actually really have to, if we were just going to turn the first edge of the first inch of this here, we wouldn't even really have to mess with the live tailstock or whatever, because we could just put this in here. So the only part that's exposed past the jaws is what we're going to turn to be really stable, which is more or less what we're going to do. And now we come over here and you can see what our little lathe does is it only accepts this in like this. With the big lathe, however, that's properly built, we turn this and it's going to slide in just like that. I don't know if you saw that here. I'll try and do it again. That is the locking in that we just cannot get under any circumstances out of the Chinese budget wonder. Luckily for us, the mighty old British machine is properly built and it actually has a real taper. And here we go. Smooth three-phase power. All right, so let's see. We're gonna try and stabify this in here. And that's gonna, oh my, this isn't, oh my. Look at, can you see that on camera? Look at this precision. This is supposed to be straight. There's the grinding to top it off when I move this. You can loosen this screw with the precision hex thing. Here, take her. Is it moving? I think it's moving. It's moving. Oh boy. Okay, you know what? The best way I can think of to do this is we're going to close this chuck. And then where all of these three jaws come together is where we want the center of our center to stab into. All right, so we got this thing decently set up. There's a couple screws in the bottom of this tailstock which you loosen, you just slide it over. It's, like I said, pretty much if it can be off from the factory, it is, but we were able to fix it. So this is pretty stable. We got the front piece of our stock held in by the chuck, and the back is stabilized by the live center in our tailstock there. So, all right, big deal. We're gonna see if this thing can actually cut some steel. Again, this is carbide tool. Anytime I use this, people who LARP as machinists are like, you should add oil to this, but as a friendly reminder, that's on high-speed steel tooling. Carbide stock like this, it's designed to run dry except for in like extreme applications on really big machinery where then it is a liquid coolant normally. But whatever the case, let's see if we can get this thing to turn on this stuff. Looks like it's running pretty true. Again, absolutely terrible surface finish. But I'm gonna try to take the mill scale off of this, and then we'll see how much material can actually hog off. It's humming right along though. Ugh. Just moving this knob, there's places where it's really tough and places where it spins freely. All right, so it's about our 0. We'll see how it does taking 20 thousandths of an inch off this material. We'll see if it's got the power to do this. So really 40 thousandths because it's 20 thousandths coming off of each side. It's doing it. It's actually running a lot smoother than I expected. Let's try 30 thousandths now. AKA 15,000%. No, it took 20 off. All right, so this is 25 thousandths coming off each side, so this material is going to be about 50 thousandths smaller, or very roughly 2 pieces of MIG wire smaller. Oh, she's screaming now. Still running fairly smooth. This is about all I dare take off, and you can really tell this machine is working. And again, this is 25 thousandths coming off of some hot rolled steel. It is really nice having this electronic control here. You can turn this down as much as you dare. Or, you know, if you got it revved up and you're actually removing some material and then you want to sand it and you want to slow way down for the sanding action, you can do it. Huh. All right, so it actually does work. I'll put it to you this way. What's good and bad about this machine? The bad is that, you know, a lot of things are going to come on it out of whack. You know, we've got this thing rubbing up against the guard over our lead screw here, which is bad. You know, you have to sand that down. You have to make sure so everything fits together. The gears are plastic. Expect to change those out if you end up with one of these things. What's good about it, the price, it's pretty stinking cheap. And it is actually functional. It does have some nice little things about it, like the electronic control here, the fact that you can actually cut threads with this. It even comes with your dial here. So it's pretty much set up for all this kind of thing, but I will say I'm not that impressed. I realize it's I don't know, $500 or $700 or whatever the heck it is to buy this thing, but to be brutally honest with you guys, I probably wouldn't. I would save my money for a real, you can get a real lathe like that off of Craigslist for not all that much money. I bought that one actually off a buddy of mine. Of course, the tooling is the expensive part, but to get a decent machine like that, expect to pay like $2 to $5 grand for the lathe itself, depending on, you know, the condition and everything. Just the lathe, and then there's whatever tooling you want. I know that's quite a bit more money than this thing, but I mean, that's the kind of, that's already lived through like 2 or 3 generations, and it's still basically new mechanically. Who knows how long this thing's gonna last? And just having the power and the rigidity and the stability on a larger machine like that versus something like this. And it's not just the size, because I know it's obviously it's not an apples to apples comparison there. I'll be honest with you guys, this thing is a toy. It's not that bad of a toy. You can certainly build stuff with it. You know, there's things you can do with this. And you know, if you're a hobby gunsmith, you just want to cut some threads on the end of some barrels or whatever, yeah, it should be able to do that. You know, you can thread some stuff, whatever. It's just, I don't know, I would, if I couldn't afford this, I would try to make friends with a local machinist, offer to sweep his floor and to turn out your bushings or whatever until you can get a real lathe. But to be fair, it is quite a bit better than I thought it would be. It runs pretty nice when it's actually running. It's just very limited. You know, you're taking 25 thousandths off per side on steel, and it's feeling it majorly. So yeah, I don't know. For some applications, I'm sure it's great, but draw your own conclusions. This is just my experience with it. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more. Cheers.